Hey, quick question. Are leaders born or leaders are made? Well, I'll tell you, leaders are made. So this video I'm going to show you, it's about Julius Malema trying to talk about what the EFF has already been doing in South Africa. And in this conversation, I'll call it conversation, we see a couple of them exchanging words. There is a couple of misunderstanding between them because the other person doesn't want to give the other person a chance to talk. But that's not important. What's important is the goals that Julius Malema has for South Africans. And I feel like this is the right time to address these issues. So I want us to watch this video, and then I'll talk about some other important things that Julius Malema has done to all Africans, if not only South Africans. So let's watch the video.
War against white monopoly capital. The ANC is not our enemy. They are standing on our way to crushing white monopoly capital, which has stolen our land, which controls the wealth of our country. And as we are in the process of crushing the white monopoly capital, there will be some of these irritations that we have to deal with. Irritation, the ANC represents such an irritation.
In 2014, you threatened to make the Gauteng province ungovernable, the province in which Johannesburg sits. We will fight, you said. We have the capability to mobilize our people and fight physically. That's not befitting of a government in waiting, is it?
We know for a fact that Gauteng ANC rigged elections here. We know for a fact that they lost Johannesburg, they lost Gauteng, and but we still accepted. But they must know that we're not going to do that this year. We're not going to accept. Part of your revolutionary duty is to fight. We'll fight. This regime must respond peacefully to our demands, must respond constitutionally to our demands. And if they are going to respond violently, like they did in the township of Alexandra, just outside Johannesburg, when people said these results do not reflect the outcome of our votes, they sent the army to go and intimidate our people. We're not going to stand. We're not scared of the army. We're not scared to fight. We'll fight.
Lest we find ourselves charged with misinterpreting your words.
Yeah.
When you say you are willing to take up arms.
Yeah.
That's what you said.
Literally.
Against the government.
Yeah. Literally. I mean it literally. We were not scared. We're not going to have a government that disrespects the
And on what basis, what are the circumstances in which you can imagine
if they respond
violently?
If they respond violently to our peaceful
so
protest.
you envisage reacting in self-defense?
We are a very peaceful organization.
Yes.
We fight our battles through peaceful means, through the courts, through parliament, through mass mobilization. We do that peacefully. But at times, government gets tempted to respond to such with violence.
Yeah. They
beat us up in parliament.
There's a long history of
and
that.
They send soldiers to places like Alexander where people are protesting and will run out of patience very soon. And will remove this government through a barrel of a gun.
Tell me a little bit more about the policies of the EFF to bring about this defeat of white monopoly capital.
Well, we are representing nationalization of mines. We believe that the state must own the mines and use the proceeds from the mines to finance the social program of government. We are for expropriation of land without compensation because the land was taken by force and through committing of black genocide. We are for free quality education, healthcare, and big and spacious houses. We are an anti-corruption organization which believes that those who are elected to represent our people should be held accountable. We want to build state capacity to destroy the tendering system which has corrupted South Africa. Those are amongst the key 7 cardinal pillars of the EFF.
It's a sort of version of communism, isn't it? Something like that?
No, it's socialism. We are unashamedly a socialist organization.
It doesn't have a great record of success, this form of government in history, or really much of a record of success at all, does it?
It does. China is one example of the success of a socialist state. Cuba is one of the example of the success of a communist state, and they did very well under very difficult conditions of economic embargo imposed on them by America. You can imagine that if Cuba was allowed to trade with anyone they wished to trade with, they would have done far much better.
I've heard more than one economist, and one reads many things about economists, speaking with concern, saying that if your economic agenda, the agenda of the EFF, were to be implemented in this country, it would become an economic basket case overnight. Already the IMF has just downgraded the 2016 GDP forecast for this country, 0.6%. That's very, very small indeed. The ratings agencies are on the verge of downgrading South Africa's bond status to junk. I mean, is this the right time to be making these sorts of pronouncements? Is that responsible, do you think?
They are not downgraded under a socialist state. They are downgraded under a capitalist state. Capitalism is failing. That's why the IMF, the World Bank, and rating agencies are downgrading a capitalist economy. So you cannot use that to want to argue that socialism cannot succeed in South Africa.
So you don't think
we are
being
at a point
frozen out of international markets, putting off international investors
we
is a
are
problem?
at a point when alternative should be introduced, because that which you are pointing at, trying to vulgarize socialism, is clear evidence of a failure of a capitalist system.
Socialism, but what I'm suggesting is
don't
that
personalize things. Me and you are having a conversation, we are quoting. You're saying I'm not talking about you. You are quoting economists, and I'm saying that which you are quoting, because it's you who's making the quote. That which you are quoting is a clear evidence of a capitalist system failing. South Africa is under capitalism.
But what you are suggesting by saying this is that South Africa can exist perfectly well outside of the international structures of finance, outside of international investment. You don't need it here. If you put them all off, you'll be just fine.
Who said under socialist state there's no foreign investment? Because there is a foreign investment.
I'm suggesting they might not want to put their money here if they think that there is expropriation without compensation, if they think that their businesses will be nationalized.
No, there will be a direct foreign investment in South Africa, because direct foreign investment, it depends on the stability of a country. How do you
reassure the foreign investors?
No, you must give me a chance to speak. Unless you want to have this interview with yourself, then we can give you a chance to speak alone.
Okay.
Because you're asking me questions, I'm responding to them, and that's the whole intention of this conversation. So we are going to ensure that we take control of our own economy. We're going to ensure that we take control of our own land, and those who want to invest in our country, they're going to do so through our own terms. Their businesses will be safe for as long as they will help to grow the economy of South Africa. If they want a piece of land, they will get that piece of land, but they will not own it. They will lease that piece of land for whatever years they so require to lease the piece of land, as long as that is aiming at creating jobs and growing the South African economy. And there will be a stable government. Their investment will be 100% protected. And there is no blood in South Africa. There is no civil war in South Africa. It's just a change of political system.
Local elections are coming up shortly, in just a few months' time. Will you do better, do you think, in these local elections than the 6% you got in the 2014 general election?
We got 6% when we were less than a year old. And I think that and we are going to be turning 3 years now. So every year represents 6 years. So the first year we got, every year represents 6% rather. The first year we got 6%, then there is another year, and then this is the third year. So we must get 6% 3 times.
That 6% per annum calculus of yours would put you by 2019, the general election, pretty much in a position to govern the country. Is that what you expect?
Absolutely. That's what we want.
The next general election?
We want to take this country by 2019. And if we don't take this country by 2019, we must be an official opposition with a clear direction of taking over power, because we said from the beginning, we are a government in waiting.
Do you envisage the need for partners? Can you see yourself in coalition with the Democratic Alliance?
Absolutely. We can work with the DA, we can work with the UDM, we can work with anyone who represents clean governance, anyone who wants to restore the dignity of black people. We are not going to work with any party, particularly the DA. It will have to outline before to us how is it going to empower in partnership with us the black nation, which is still under an economic oppression, is still under an economic apartheid. We're not going to partner with anyone who wants to bring white dominance and control through a back door. So the DA will have to outline itself as to how do we ensure that we take our people out of the shacks? How do we make sure that the black middle class gets paid the same salary with white counterparts for the same job? Because that is not the case today. And if the DA doesn't outline that, will not be in any partnership with them. We want a party that is ready to empower the black nation.
Do you have anything positive at all to say to the whites of this country, the 10% that makes up the white population?
Well, they are part of South Africa. This is their country, and many of them have demonstrated their love for this country. Many of them want to contribute to the positive development of this country.
When they're all racists, for instance.
I've never said that. I've never said that. Of course, if you were to refer me to a specific report so that I can respond to a specific article, I don't know of such an article. All I said is that we want a country where we're all equal. My fighting for black people does not mean the oppression of white people. I'm fighting to liberate black people so that they can be at the same level with white people.
Well, what about
and we don't see each other as white and black, but we see each other as human beings.
What about the language of incitement then? Where does that fit into that paradigm? Because as you said this weekend, you said whites are the real enemy. They've stolen the land. We'll steal it back. You said also that black people, just a few days ago, should have more babies so that they can keep up their majority over the white people. This is not inclusive language, is it?
No. The people who took our land is white people. When we say we want our land, we don't want it from the sky. We want it from white people. So that's why we're saying we want our land from them. They've taken our land, and they've taken our land through a black genocide. Secondly, when I say black people must reproduce for sustainability of our ideas, it doesn't mean white people must not reproduce. If they want to reproduce, they are free to do that. All I'm saying to our people is that we are fighting for economic freedom. And for these ideas to be sustainable, we have to reproduce ourselves. Because the reproduction of ourselves means reproduction of our ideas. We are guaranteed longevity. We are guaranteed the legacy.
Julius Malema has been for equality for all South Africans. I'm talking about economic equality. We have issues like land reforms, which Julius Malema have been addressing. You see, we have things to do with land redistribution without compensation. You see, this is an important thing because we have the marginalized group that are disadvantaged with the issue of land, and this has been one of the issues, the land reforms that Julius Malema have always been talking to. And in as much as we are seeing him being a socialist, however, there are some things which are being brought by capitalism, which Julius Malema has just to fight. So he has to sit between socialism and capitalism. And capitalism is trying to bring about economic equality. Economic equality is trying to strike a balance between people who have a lot of wealth which they acquired illegally. Remember, South Africa went through the apartheid regime where we have Africans and the whites who were totally discriminated, differentiated from each other, and this also manifested in acquiring of wealth. And with this policy that Julius Malema is coming with, is trying to bring all South Africans together by telling them that it is not late. You can still get your land back, you can still get your wealth back, and that's what I believe that Julius Malema has always been advocating for, what is called economic equality. And this is land redistribution without compensation. And I feel like this is important. This is important for all South Africans if they want development in their country. So tell me what you think in the comment section about Julius Malema. He's been eating controversies, I know, but for me as a person, we also watch you in Kenya, and I've been following up with politics in South Africa, and I know this is the time when people will decide, people will choose who is their leader, and I hope that you make the right decision and choose the leader that you think can serve you right. The second thing that I would like to address is what we called political accountability. Remember, Julius Malema is not only for South Africans. Julius Malema is for Africans. 2 months ago, our own President William Ruto, Julius Malema pointed him, calling him out for the things that he did. And he said that nowadays I'm not seeing Mr. William Ruto. What does this seem? This means that Julius Malema calls you for who you are. If you make a mistake, he calls you out. Recently, he called out Paul Kagame. So political accountability, it's so important. So this is not just a leader for South Africans. This is a leader who is being looked on to by other African countries, like for example in Kenya here, because Julius Malema might be so popular than we South Africans think, because he is the leader for Africans. He is the hope for Africans. He represents people who talk about Africa. He represents people who have the positive mindset about Africa, people who only have good intentions with Africa. That's why he normally calls out political leaders when they go outside their work or they make some mistakes. And I believe he is not only working as a opposition leader to keep the power in checks, but he also calls out other leaders in African countries. And you see, this is something which it is important, because you know very well when you mess up as an African leader, Julius Malema will call you out and he will tell you to correct the mistake. Let me ask you, who doesn't want such kind of leader? Well, I know people will say that people like Julius Malema deserves to be opposition because they'll keep power in check. Well, I think some people also in Kenya also compares Julius Malema with our own beloved Raila Odinga, you see, because he has been always a popular opposition. And I know some South Africans are saying that, Julius Malema will lose. Julius Malema is just better if he stays at the opposition leader. But will I tell you this? If Africa wants Julius Malema, I believe everything is possible, and Julius Malema will be there wherever he wants, because this political accountability, it's what Africa needs. We have African leaders who still are corrupt. We have African leaders who are still puppets to the Western leaders. We have African leaders who are still dragging down Africa. This also includes South Africa, and you guys are recently going to vote. Again, I'll remind you, take your time, look at what Julius Malema has done for South Africa. If you feel like he has done something right, I think it is the right time to consider him as a leader that can serve you internationally. Also, Julius Malema, everyone wants him. Everyone wants Julius Malema because he is the missing piece. He is the one piece that Africa needs. And he is one person who has a lot of personality. He is one person who covers a lot of historical prominent leaders like Muammar Gaddafi, like we have prominent leaders who are there like Kwame Nkrumah. We are seeing these people in Julius Malema today because he is our Kwame Nkrumah of today. He is our Muammar Gaddafi of today, because these people only had a good intention of Africa. And who is remaining doing that? I mean, it's Julius Malema. So when you go and vote as South Africans, I urge you to make the right decisions. I'll not dictate to you who to vote to or who not to vote to, but you know very well who is right for you. And so with that, tell me what you think in the comment section. This is Eugene from Kenya, and happy for you South Africans in the upcoming elections. Stay with peace, and Happy New Year. Peace, love, and harmony. Salute.